The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than any building on Earth. Hundreds of different alien species sat in floating chairs that moved around the room like dancing lights. The air smelled strange, full of gases that different aliens needed to breathe. Translator machines hummed softly, turning alien words into sounds that everyone could understand. Yunwu sat in the human section, which was very small compared to the others. He wore his best diplomatic uniform, dark blue with gold buttons that caught the strange purple light of the room. His hands were steady on the table in front of him, but inside he felt worried. The other ambassadors had been whispering about war for days. At the center of the room stood a creature that looked like it was made of living crystal. This was Zephanos, one of the oldest beings in the galaxy. His body changed colors as he spoke, shifting from blue to green to gold. When he talked, his voice sounded like music mixed with the sound of breaking glass. "I have called this emergency meeting to warn you all," Zephanos said. His crystal body glowed brighter as he spoke. "The Veltar Empire plans to attack the humans. This must not happen." From across the room came a sound like angry thunder. War Commander Thexval rose from his chair. He was huge, even bigger than the largest human. His skin was covered in dark green scales that looked like armor. 2 rows of sharp teeth showed when he smiled, and his eyes glowed red in the dim light. "The humans took our mining worlds in the Outer Rim," Thexval said. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "They have no right to those planets. We claimed them first." Yunwu stood up slowly. He had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat, and he knew how to stay calm when others wanted to fight. "Commander Thexval, those worlds were empty when our colonists arrived. Your people had left them abandoned for over 50 years. Abandoned." Thexval's laugh shook the walls. "We were fighting other wars. That does not mean we gave up our claim. According to galactic law," Yunwu said, keeping his voice steady, "any world left empty for more than 25 years can be claimed by new settlers. Our people followed the law." Other aliens in the room began to talk among themselves. Some agreed with the humans, others sided with the Veltar. The noise grew louder until Zephanos raised one crystal arm for silence. "The law is not what matters here," the ancient being said. "I have lived for 3,000 years. I have watched many species rise and fall. I have studied the humans since they first left their homeworld. Listen to me carefully." The room became very quiet. Even Thexval stopped moving and listened. "Do not attack the humans," Zephanos continued. "They are not like other species in this galaxy. Yes, they are young. Yes, they have simple technology compared to yours. But they have something else, something dangerous. What could these soft mammals possibly have that we should fear?" Thexval asked. He pointed one clawed finger at Yunwu. "Look at him. Small, weak, no natural weapons. Their ships are old and slow. Their weapons are basic. What threat could they be?" Zephanos moved closer to the Veltar commander. As he walked, his crystal body reflected the light in strange ways, making rainbow patterns on the walls. "You think strength is about size and weapons. You think winning means never getting hurt. This is why you do not understand." "Then explain it to me, old one," Thexval said. "What makes these humans so special?" "They will bleed," Zephanos said simply. "You will hurt them badly. You will destroy their ships and kill many of their people. You will think you are winning because they suffer. But here is what you do not understand. They will never surrender." The Veltar commander laughed again, but this time it sounded less sure. "Everyone surrenders when they have lost enough." "No," Zephanos said, his voice becoming sad. "Not humans. I have watched them fight wars on their own planet for thousands of years. They have suffered things that would break any other species. Disasters that should have killed them all. Enemies that should have destroyed them. But they always keep fighting." Yunwu felt a strange mix of pride and worry as he listened. He thought about the history lessons he had learned as a child. The old wars on Earth, the famines, the diseases, the natural disasters. His people had survived all of it. Their homeworld tried to kill them every day, Zephanos continued. Ice ages, volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, droughts. Diseases that killed millions. Animals much stronger than them. And what did the humans do? They learned to make fire. They built tools. They worked together. When one group fell, another would rise. They never stopped trying. "This is just history," Thexval said, but his voice was quieter now.
"Ancient stories mean nothing in modern war." "You are wrong," Zephanos said.
"Those ancient struggles made them what they are today. When you attack them, they will not think about surrender They will think about survival. And humans are very, very good at surviving. Ambassador Hyunwoo stepped forward. Commander Thexval, we do not want war. Our people came to the Outer Rim to build peaceful colonies. We mine the asteroids and grow food on empty planets. We have never attacked your people or taken anything that belonged to you. But you will fight if we attack? Thexval asked. Yes, Hyunwoo said without hesitation. We will defend our people and our worlds. With what? Thexval spread his arms wide. Your tiny fleet? Your simple weapons? We have 1,000 ships for every one of yours. Our soldiers are stronger, faster, better armed. Then you will win easily, Hyunwoo said. If that is what you believe, then attack us. But remember what Elder Zephanos has told you. Thexval looked around the room. Most of the other aliens were watching him carefully. Some looked worried. Others seemed curious about what would happen. The Veltar had always been the strongest military force in this part of the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds and defeated many enemies. The Veltar Empire does not fear humans or their warnings, Thexval announced. We will take back our rightful territories. If the humans resist, we will crush them like we have crushed all our enemies. Zephanos moved back to the center of the room. His crystal body had turned dark blue, the color that meant sadness among his people. Then you have chosen a path that will bring suffering to both our species. I have given you fair warning. Remember my words when the bleeding begins. Who's bleeding? Thexval asked with a cruel smile. Everyone's, Zephanos replied quietly. The session ended with no agreement. Hyunwoo gathered his papers and prepared to return to Earth. He would need to warn his government that war was coming. As he left the Great Hall, he passed by Elder Zephanos. Thank you for trying to help, Hyunwoo said. The ancient being looked at him with eyes like stars. I have failed. The Veltar will attack your people because they do not understand what they are facing. They see only your weaknesses and ignore your strengths. What strengths? Hyunwoo asked. You will discover them when the fighting starts, Zephanos said. I only hope the cost will not be too high for both sides. As Hyunwoo walked to his ship, he thought about the old stories from Earth. Stories of his ancestors who had faced impossible odds and somehow survived. Stories of people who kept fighting even when hope seemed lost. He hoped those stories would be enough for what was coming. The morning sky over New Seoul was clear and blue when the first Veltar ships appeared. Soo-jin was drinking coffee in her office when the warning sirens began to wail across the colony. She ran to the window and looked up to see dark shapes moving between the clouds like giant metal birds. Soo-jin had been the colony administrator for 5 years. She knew every building, every street, every family in New Seoul. The colony had 30,000 people, mostly farmers and miners who had come here to build new lives. Now she had to save them all. All citizens report to emergency stations, she spoke into her communication device. Her voice stayed calm even though her heart was beating fast. This is not a drill. Follow Evacuation Plan 7. Outside her building, people were already moving. Parents carried small children while older kids helped pack emergency bags. The colonists had practiced for this day, but nobody thought it would really happen. Soo-jin grabbed her emergency kit and ran toward the defense center. Captain Minho was already there, looking at screens that showed the enemy ships getting closer. He was young for a defense captain, only 32 years old, but he had trained for this job his whole adult life. His dark hair was cut short like a soldier's, and his uniform was clean and pressed even in the emergency. How many ships? Soo-jin asked as she entered the command room. 57 so far, Minho replied without looking away from the screens. More coming. They have us surrounded. Soo-jin felt her stomach drop. The colony only had 6 small defense ships and a few ground weapons. Can we fight them? We can try, Minho said. But Soo-jin, you need to get the people out of here. Take them to the underground shelters in the mining caves. What about you and your soldiers? Minho finally looked at her. His eyes were serious but not afraid. We'll do our job. We'll buy you time. The first explosions came 10 minutes later. Veltar plasma beams lit up the sky like green lightning. They hit the colony's power station first, then the communication tower. The lights went out across New Seoul, but the emergency systems kept working. Soo-jin coordinated the evacuation from a backup command post. Families streamed toward the mining caves on the edge of town. The caves went deep into the mountains and had their own air and water systems. They could hide there for weeks if needed. Defense ships launching, came Minho's voice over the radio. Soo-jin watched through a window as 6 small human ships rose into the sky. They looked tiny compared to the Veltar vessels, like insects attacking elephants. The space battle lasted only 20 minutes. The human ships fought bravely, but they were too small and too few. One by one, they were shot down. Sujin watched the last one explode in a ball of orange fire and felt tears on her cheeks. "Captain Minho, please respond," she called into her radio. "I'm here," his voice came back, but it sounded tired. "I'm on the ground now. My ship is gone, but I'm alive, setting up defensive positions around the town center. You should evacuate with the rest of us." "No, this is my job. Protect the people, protect the colony. I won't abandon my post." The first Veltar landing ships touched down 2 hours later. They were huge black metal boxes that opened like flowers to release soldiers. The aliens were even bigger in person than in the pictures. Each Veltar warrior stood 8 feet tall and carried weapons that could cut through metal. Yunji watched them from her hiding spot in the engineering building. She was the colony's chief engineer, responsible for all the machines that kept New Sol running. She was small, only 5 feet tall, with quick hands and a clever mind. When the invasion started, she had stayed behind to set up surprises for the invaders. The Veltar soldiers moved through the empty streets in perfect formation. They expected to find scared humans hiding in buildings ready to surrender. Instead, they found something else. The first explosion came from under the main street. Yunji had taken mining charges and buried them under the road. When the Veltar patrol walked over them, she pressed a button on her remote control. 3 alien soldiers disappeared in a cloud of dust and debris. What was that? The Veltar commander radioed to his troops. Unknown explosion. 3 soldiers down. Check for more traps. But Yunji had been very busy. She had spent years learning how the colony's systems worked. She knew where every pipe, every cable, every support beam was located, and she had turned them all into weapons. When the next Veltar group entered the factory district, she triggered the gas lines. The explosion shook the whole colony and took out an entire building. When they tried to use the elevator in the administration building, she cut the cables and sent them falling 5 stories. Minho and his 20 soldiers were fighting from prepared positions around the colony center. They had sandbags and concrete barriers, but their weapons were much weaker than what the Veltar carried. Still, they kept shooting. "Sir, we're taking heavy casualties," Sergeant Do-hyun reported. He was a farmer who had volunteered for the defense force. His left arm was bandaged from a plasma burn, but he still held his rifle steady. "How many men do we have left?" Minho asked. 15 able to fight. 5 wounded but still shooting." Minho looked around at his soldiers. Most of them were not professional military. They were colonists who had signed up to protect their homes. Do-hyun grew vegetables. Private Kim Jun fixed farming machines. Corporal Dae-won taught school to the colony children. But they all kept fighting. "Captain," Do-hyun said quietly, "maybe we should surrender. Save the lives we can." Minho shook his head. "No. Every minute we hold them here gives the evacuation more time. Every minute means more families get to safety." A Veltar assault team tried to charge their position. The aliens were fast and strong, but the humans knew the ground better. They used the colony's layout to their advantage, ducking behind buildings and using narrow alleys where the big aliens couldn't move easily. Do-hyun surprised a Veltar soldier by jumping out of a storage shed. The alien was twice his size, but Do-hyun had brought his farming tools. He swung a heavy metal rake at the warrior's head. It should not have worked. The alien wore armor and had better weapons, but Do-hyun had spent years swinging farm tools. He knew exactly how to use them. The Veltar commander was getting frustrated. His forces should have taken the colony in 1 hour. Instead, they had been fighting for 6 hours and still had not captured the main area. His soldiers reported strange problems everywhere they went. "The humans have some kind of advanced defense system," one of his officers reported. "Explosions appear from nowhere. Buildings collapse when we enter them. Their weapons are weak, but they keep fighting even when wounded. How many humans are left?" "Unknown, sir. We have killed many, but they do not surrender. The wounded ones crawl away and then attack us later from new positions. This is impossible. They should be terrified. They should be begging for mercy." But the humans were not begging. Sujin coordinated rescue efforts from the caves, sending small teams back into the colony to help wounded defenders. Yunji continued to trigger explosions and traps. Minho led his shrinking force in hit-and-run attacks. Night fell over New Sol. The colony was badly damaged, with many buildings destroyed or burning. But the human defenders were still fighting. They moved through the darkness like ghosts, appearing to attack Veltar patrols and then disappearing again. Do-hyun was badly hurt now. A plasma blast had burned his right leg and he could barely walk. But when he saw a group of Veltar soldiers near the school where his own children had learned to read, he dragged himself to a hiding spot and kept shooting. Why won't they give up? A young Veltar soldier asked his commander. The commander looked around at the burning colony. His forces controlled most of the buildings, but fighting continued everywhere. Human voices could be heard in the darkness, coordinating attacks and helping wounded comrades. I don't know, the commander admitted. Our intelligence said they would surrender quickly. That humans avoid fighting when they face superior force. Should we offer them terms? Promise to spare civilians if the soldiers surrender? The commander tried this. He broadcast a message in human language. Attention, human defenders. You have fought bravely, but you cannot win. Surrender now and we will treat you with honor. Continue fighting and you will all die. Minho's voice came back over the radio. This is Captain Minho of New Seoul Defense Force. We hear your offer. Our answer is no. You are outnumbered 50-1, the Veltar commander replied. Your colony is destroyed. Your ships are gone. Why do you keep fighting? Because this is our home, Minho answered simply. These are our people. We don't abandon what we're sworn to protect. The fighting continued through the night. When dawn came, the Veltar controlled most of New Seoul, but they had paid a heavy price. They had lost more soldiers taking one small colony than they usually lost conquering entire planets. The commander sent his report back to the Veltar fleet. Colony captured, but resistance continues. Human defenders suffered 90% casualties but refused to surrender, requesting additional troops and medical support. We do not understand their behavior. Far above in space, War Commander Thexval read the report with growing confusion. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to break easily. Instead, his forces were reporting the strangest battle they had ever fought. The humans bled. They died. They lost most. News of New Seoul's resistance spread across human space like wildfire. Admiral Jae-sung received the reports in his command center on Earth's moon. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes who had spent 40 years in the Earth Defense Fleet. He had never expected to fight a real war. How many colonies are under attack now? He asked his aide. 17 so far, sir. The Veltar are hitting our outer rim worlds first. They expect quick victories. Jae-sung looked at the tactical display showing human space. Red dots marked Veltar attacks. Blue dots showed human colonies. There were far more red dots than blue ones. What are our casualties? Hi, sir. But the colonies are fighting back. None have surrendered yet. None. Jae-sung was surprised. Military doctrine said that isolated colonies should surrender when facing overwhelming force. It saved lives and equipment for later battles. No, sir. Every colony is fighting. Some are completely cut off and surrounded, but they keep transmitting resistance reports. On the industrial world of Busan Prime, Heejin ran through the underground tunnels beneath Factory Complex 7. She was 45 years old and had been a factory supervisor for 20 years. She knew every machine, every conveyor belt, every storage room in the facility. When the Veltar attacked, they had captured the main factory buildings quickly. But Heejin and her workers had retreated into the maintenance tunnels that ran under the entire complex. The aliens did not know these tunnels existed. How many rifles do we have ready? She asked Jinsu, her assistant supervisor. 43 finished since yesterday, Jinsu replied. Basic design, but they work. We're running low on metal, though. Heejin smiled grimly. Then we'll take some from the Veltar. Above them, Veltar engineers were trying to restart the factory machines. They needed the industrial capacity to support their invasion. But every time they got a production line working, something would go wrong. Tools would disappear. Sabotage charges would explode. Workers would vanish into hidden passages. The Veltar had posted guards throughout the factory, but the humans seemed to appear and disappear like smoke. They would strike at a patrol, kill or wound several aliens, then vanish before reinforcements arrived. The humans are using the building against us, the Veltar factory commander reported to his superiors. They know passages we cannot find. They attack from walls, from floors, from ceilings. Hunt them down, came the order from orbit. We try, sir, but they know this place better than we do. When we chase them, they lead us into traps. Heejin had indeed set many traps. She had 20 years of experience with industrial accidents and safety systems. She knew exactly how to make machines dangerous. When Veltar soldiers entered certain rooms, she would trigger mechanical presses that could crush metal. She would release poisonous gases from chemical storage tanks. She would electrify metal floors and handrails. The factory workers helped her. Zhang Min, who had operated cranes for 15 years, used his machine to drop heavy loads on alien patrols. Sujung, who worked in quality control, had learned to make explosive devices from factory chemicals. Even the cleaning staff helped by poisoning the water supplies that the Veltar were using. On the agricultural world of Jeju 7, Marine Colonel Tae-ho faced a different kind of hell. The planet was mostly farmland with small towns scattered across wide plains. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. The Veltar could attack from any direction with superior numbers and firepower. Tae-ho had 2,000 Marines to defend an entire world. He split them into small units and spread them across the planet's surface. Each unit would hold one position as long as possible, then fall back to the next defensive line. "Sir, Delta Company is reporting heavy casualties," his communications officer announced. "They're down to 30% strength but holding their position." "What about medical support?" Tae-ho asked. "Dr. So Young is with them now, sir." So Young was the best field medic in the Colonial Marines. She was small and quick, with steady hands and a calm voice that could reassure wounded soldiers. She had been working for 18 hours straight, moving from one battle to another. "I need this soldier back in the fight," Captain Dongwoo told her, pointing to a Marine with bandaged ribs. "He has 3 broken ribs and a concussion," So Young replied while cleaning a plasma burn on another soldier's arm. "He needs real medical care. Doc, we don't have replacement soldiers. Everyone who can hold a rifle has to fight." So Young looked at the wounded Marine. His name was Byung-ho and he was only 19 years old. He had been a farm worker before joining the Marines. "Can you see straight?" she asked him. "Yes, ma'am. Headache's not too bad." "Can you hold a rifle steady?" "Yes, ma'am." So Young gave him pain medication and helped him stand up. "Stay behind cover. Don't do anything heroic. If you start feeling dizzy, find another medic." This scene repeated itself hundreds of times across Jeju 7. Wounded Marines would receive basic treatment and return to fighting. Soldiers with broken bones would prop themselves against walls and keep shooting. Men with burns and cuts would bandage themselves and run to new positions. The Veltar forces were confused by what they saw. Their own military doctrine said that wounded soldiers should be evacuated for proper medical care. Injured warriors were supposed to be removed from combat until they healed completely. But human soldiers would crawl away from battlefield aid stations to return to the fighting. They would ignore serious injuries to help their comrades. So Young treated a Marine whose left hand had been badly burned, and 20 minutes later she saw him firing his rifle one-handed from behind a stone wall. "Commander, we need to understand human psychology," one Veltar officer radioed to his superiors. "Their behavior makes no strategic sense. They continue fighting when logic says they should withdraw." War Commander Thexval studied the reports from all the battle zones. Every human colony was responding the same way. Heavy casualties, enormous damage, but no surrenders. His forces were winning every battle but paying unexpected costs. "How many soldiers have we lost so far?" he asked his aide. 12,000 killed, 23,000 wounded, much higher than projected. "And human losses?" "Estimated 60,000 killed, unknown wounded. But sir, that's the problem. We cannot get accurate counts, because they won't stop fighting long enough for us to count their dead." Val studied a detailed report from Busan Prime. His forces controlled the surface of the industrial world, but production had actually decreased since the invasion began. The humans were conducting sabotage operations from hidden positions throughout the factory complexes. "These mammals are supposed to be practical," he said to himself. "They should understand when they are defeated." His aide, a younger Veltar officer named Kekstar, spoke carefully. "Sir, perhaps we are misunderstanding something about their nature." "Explain." "Our intelligence report said humans avoid unnecessary casualties, that they value individual lives over abstract principles, but we are seeing the opposite behavior." Thexval looked at another report, this one from Jeju 7. His forces had pushed the human Marines back across half the planet, but the fighting was getting harder, not easier. The humans seemed to be learning from each battle, adapting their tactics, becoming more dangerous even as their numbers decreased. "Send a message to all human command centers," Thexval ordered. "Offer them honorable surrender terms. Guarantee safety for civilians if military forces lay down their weapons. The message was broadcast across human space. Admiral Jae-sung received it at his headquarters and called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. "The Veltar are offering terms," he announced. "They want our colonies to surrender in exchange for civilian safety." "What kind of terms?" asked General Miran, his chief of staff. "Standard occupation protocol. Military forces surrender and are taken as prisoners. Civilian populations remain on their worlds under Veltar administration." "That means slavery," Miran said bluntly. "The Veltar don't treat conquered populations as equals." Jae-sung nodded. "I know, but we're taking enormous casualties. Some colonies have lost 80% of their defenders. What do the colony commanders say?" "That's what's remarkable. I've received 17 responses so far. All 17 have refused surrender." The meeting room fell silent. These were experienced military officers who understood the cost of war. They knew that continuing to fight meant more deaths, more suffering, more destruction. "Admiral," asked Colonel Wansik, "what are our chances of actually winning this war?" "Honestly? Very small. The Veltar have superior numbers, better technology, and more resources. If this was a conventional war, we would have no chance." "But this isn't a conventional war, is it?" Miran observed. "The Veltar expected quick victories. Instead, they're getting bogged down in lengthy sieges. Their casualty rates are much higher than they planned." Jae-sung brought up tactical displays showing all the battle zones. "Look at the patterns. Every human position fights until it's completely overwhelmed. Even then, survivors continue resistance operations. The Veltar can't consolidate their gains because they have to keep fighting in areas they've already conquered." On Jeju 7, Colonel Tae-ho received the surrender offer while treating his own wounds in a bombed-out farmhouse. His force was down to 800 Marines scattered across the planet. They had been fighting for 6 days. The Veltar fleet arrived at Earth like a dark storm covering the stars. President Young-soo watched from the emergency command center buried deep under the mountains of Korea. The screens showed more than 2,000 enemy ships blocking out the sun. It was the largest invasion force in galactic history. "How long until they reach the surface?" Young-soo asked. "Our orbital defenses are holding for now," replied General Miran. "But we can't stop them all. Maybe 6 hours before the first landing ships get through." Young-soo was 70 years old and had been president for 8 years. He had spent his whole career working for peace, trying to build a better world for his children and grandchildren. Now he had to lead humanity's last fight. "What about evacuation of the major cities?" "Impossible, sir. Too many people, not enough time. We're moving as many as we can to the underground shelters, but most people will have to stay where they are." High above Earth, Captain Sung-min commanded the destroyer Incheon, one of 40 human ships trying to stop the massive Veltar fleet. His ship was small and fast, built for patrol duty, not fleet battles. But it was all humanity had left. "Sir, we're down to 20% ammunition," his weapons officer reported. "And the Busan?" Sung-min asked, looking at his sister ship. "Dead in space, sir. Engine hit. They're drifting." Sung-min made a decision that would have seemed insane to any other species. "Plot a ramming course for that Veltar cruiser." "Full speed, sir?" "You heard me. If we can't shoot them, we'll hit them. All hands prepare for impact." The Incheon accelerated toward the enemy ship like a missile. The Veltar cruiser tried to turn away, but the human destroyer was too fast. The collision tore both ships apart in a ball of fire and twisted metal. Similar scenes played out across the orbital battle zone. Human ships, out of ammunition and facing destruction, turned themselves into weapons. Fighter pilot Ji-woo, her fuel running low and her weapons empty, aimed her small craft at the command bridge of a Veltar battleship. "This is Lightning 4, she radioed to her squadron. "I'm going in. Take care of my family." Her fighter disappeared in an explosion that crippled the enemy ship's navigation systems. Other pilots followed her example. When human ships could no longer fight, they became battering rams and guided bombs. The Veltar fleet commanders had never seen anything like it. Enemy forces were supposed to retreat when facing superior numbers. They were supposed to try to preserve their ships and crews for future battles. They were not supposed to throw themselves into suicidal attacks. "Sir, we're taking heavy casualties from these ramming attacks," a Veltar officer reported to War Commander Thexval. "The humans are destroying their own ships to damage ours." "That makes no sense," Thexval replied. "What strategic value do they gain?" "None, sir. They're trading one ship for one ship, sometimes 2 ships for one. It's not efficient. But the human attacks were having an effect that the Veltar did not understand. Every ramming attack meant one less human ship, but it also meant damaged Veltar vessels that had to withdraw for repairs. More importantly, it meant that the human defenders were not giving up even when facing impossible odds. On Earth's surface, people were preparing for the invasion in their own ways. Chang Ho was a high school teacher in Seoul. When the evacuation order came, he helped get his students to the underground shelters. But instead of staying safely hidden, he organized the older students into messenger groups. "We can't fight the aliens directly," he told his 17-year-old students, "but we can help the people who are fighting. We know this city better than any invader ever will." Chang Ho's students became a communication network for the resistance. They carried messages between scattered groups of defenders, guided wounded civilians to medical stations, and helped move supplies through the city's subway tunnels. In the medical district, Dr. Na Young set up an emergency hospital in a subway station. She had volunteered for this assignment even though it meant staying in the most dangerous part of the city. Her job was to treat wounded defenders and get them back into the fight as quickly as possible. "Doctor, we need more space," her assistant said. "We have 50 wounded soldiers and nowhere to put them." "Put them in the train cars," Na Young replied while operating on a Marine's shattered arm. "Use the seats as beds and set up the pharmacy and the ticket booth." Na Young worked without stopping for 3 days. She performed surgery by flashlight when the power went out. She used subway maintenance tools as medical instruments when her regular equipment broke. When she ran out of anesthesia, she operated on conscious patients who bit down on leather straps to keep from screaming. The strangest thing was that her patients kept asking to return to duty. Soldiers with broken legs wanted crutches so they could get back to their positions. Marines with severe burns asked for bandages and painkillers so they could keep fighting. "You need at least a week to heal," she told Corporal Kyung-soo, a former office worker who had joined the city defense force. "Doc, the aliens will be here tomorrow," Kyung-soo replied. "I don't have a week." Na-young gave him the strongest painkillers she had and helped him strap his broken ribs. An hour later, she saw him running through the tunnels carrying ammunition to a defensive position. The first Veltar landing ships reached Earth's surface at dawn. They came down in Central Park in New York and Hyde Park in London, in Ueno Park in Tokyo. The aliens had chosen open spaces where they could establish secure landing zones. But Earth cities were not like the small colonies they had conquered before. These were massive urban areas with millions of people and countless hiding places. Every building could conceal defenders. Every street could become a battlefield. Kyung-soo led a small group of civilian volunteers in the ruins of downtown Seoul. They were not trained soldiers. He had been an accountant. Min Jung had worked in a bank. Jae-ho had managed a restaurant. But they knew every alley, every basement, every rooftop in their neighborhood. "The aliens are setting up a command post in the old city hall," Kyung-soo reported over his radio. "We can hit them if we go through the shopping mall." "That's suicide," replied the military coordinator. "You don't have heavy weapons." "We don't need heavy weapons. We have construction explosives from the subway project." Kyung-soo's group moved through abandoned buildings and underground passages. They used maintenance tunnels, parking garages, and subway connections to get close to the alien position. When they emerged in the basement of City Hall, they were directly under the Veltar Command Center. The explosion could be heard across the city. It destroyed the building and killed dozens of alien officers. But it also killed all 7 members of Kyung-soo's volunteer group. They had known it was a one-way mission when they started. War Commander Thexval landed on Earth personally to take command of the invasion. He expected to find broken human forces ready to surrender. Instead, he found a war unlike anything in Veltar military history. "Report," he ordered his ground commander. "Sir, we control most of the major landing zones, but resistance continues everywhere. The humans are not fighting like a regular army. They use civilians as combatants. They fight from hospitals, schools, even children's playgrounds. What about their government? Have we captured their leaders? No, sir. Their command structure seems to be distributed. When we destroy one command post, another one takes over. When we kill their officers, enlisted soldiers continue the mission." Thexval studied the tactical displays. His forces held strong positions throughout Earth's major cities, but the fighting never stopped. Human attacks came from every direction at all hours. His soldiers could not rest, could not consolidate their gains. could not establish proper supply lines. Sir, his aide said carefully, perhaps we should consider the old warnings about this species. What warnings? Elder Zephanos told us they would never surrender. Our intelligence dismissed this as superstition. Are you saying our intelligence was wrong? The aide pointed to the battle reports. Sir, we have killed an estimated 2 million human defenders in the past week. We have destroyed most of their military equipment. We control their major cities and communication networks. By every measure, they have lost this war. And yet they keep fighting. Wounded soldiers return to battle. Civilians take up arms. Children carry messages for the resistance. We cannot find anyone willing to negotiate surrender. In the ruins of the diplomatic quarter, Hyunwoo sat in what had been his office. The building was half destroyed, and he had a bandage around his head from falling debris, but he still had a working radio, and he was still broadcasting messages to any human forces that could hear him. This is Ambassador Hyunwoo to all resistance units. He spoke into the microphone. Continue operations. Do not surrender. Help is coming. Thexval himself entered the ruined building with a squad of guards. He found the human diplomat sitting calmly at his damaged desk, still making his broadcasts. Ambassador, Thexval said, his voice echoing through his armor speakers, your military has been defeated. Your cities are occupied. Your people are dying in hopeless battles. Why do you not surrender? Hyunwoo looked up at the massive alien warrior. His own clothes were torn and dirty, and blood had dried on his face, but his eyes were steady. Because we're still here, what does that mean? It means we haven't lost. As long as one human... The crystal ship of Elder Zephanos appeared above Earth without warning. It was beautiful and ancient, shaped like a giant star that sparkled with its own inner light. Behind it came a fleet of ships from a dozen different species, all members of the Galactic Council who had finally decided to act. War Commander. Thexval received the message while standing in the ruins of Seoul. Around him, his soldiers were still fighting street-to-street battles with human defenders who seemed to appear from nowhere and disappear like ghosts. War Commander, this is Elder Zephanos of the Kethamori. I'm requesting immediate ceasefire and negotiations. The Galactic Council demands your presence. Thexval looked around at the destroyed city. His invasion force had been fighting for 2 weeks and controlled most of Earth's surface, but the resistance had never stopped. Every day brought new attacks, new explosions, new groups of humans who refused to give up. Elder, I am in the middle of completing our conquest. The humans will surrender soon. No, Zephanos replied, his voice carrying the weight of 3,000 years. They will not. And if you continue this war, it will destroy both our species. The meeting took place in the ruins of the old diplomatic building where Hyunwoo had been captured. The human ambassador was brought up from the basement where he had been held prisoner. He was thin and pale, with fresh bandages on his arms, but he walked steadily and kept his head high. Zephanos materialized in the center of the destroyed room. His crystal body reflected the afternoon sunlight in rainbow patterns on the broken walls. Other alien ambassadors appeared as holograms. The council had decided this matter was too important for normal diplomatic channels. War Commander Thexval, Zephanos began. You have been fighting this war for 37 days. What have you accomplished? We have conquered most of the human worlds, Thexval replied. We control their major cities and industrial centers. We have killed millions of their soldiers. And yet the fighting continues. It will end soon. The humans cannot sustain these losses much longer. Zephanos gestured toward the window where smoke could be seen rising from battles still raging across the city. Show me your reports from the past week. Thexval reluctantly activated his tactical display. It showed the entire Earth, marked with red zones where Veltar forces held positions and blue zones where human resistance continued. You control the surface, Zephanos observed. But look more closely. Every red zone has blue areas within it. Every position you hold is under constant attack. You have not conquered Earth, you have become trapped on it. That is temporary. Once we eliminate the remaining resistance cells, there are no resistance cells, Zephanos interrupted. There is only resistance. Every human civilian is a potential fighter. Every building is a potential fortress. Every street is a potential battlefield. You are not fighting an army. You are fighting an entire species. Hyunwoo spoke for the first time since entering the room. Elder Zephanos, with respect, why are you here? This is our fight. The ancient being turned to face the human diplomat. Because, Ambassador Hyunwoo, this war will not end the way the Veltar expect. And if it continues, it will spread beyond your worlds. What do you mean? Thexaval demanded. Zephanos created a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked Veltar territory. Blue dots showed human colonies, and green dots represented other species. Observe what has happened in the 37 days since this war began, Zephanos said. The Drex Confederation has begun building defensive alliances, fearing they will be your next target. The hegemony of Tau has started military preparations. 3 other species have requested council protection. They have nothing to fear if they do not interfere. But they have learned something from watching you fight the humans. They have learned that superior force does not guarantee victory. They have learned that some species cannot be conquered, only destroyed. And they have learned that the Veltar Empire is not invincible. Thexval felt a chill of understanding. The other species are planning to rebel. Not rebel, defend themselves. Your easy conquest of the humans was supposed to demonstrate Veltar power and discourage resistance from other species. Instead, it has shown them that even the mighty Veltar can be bled by a determined enemy. Zephanos changed the display to show detailed reports from human colonies across the galaxy. Look at what your forces have accomplished. On New Sol, you captured the colony but lost 800 soldiers to a garrison of 50 humans. On Busan Prime, you control the factories, but production has stopped completely because of sabotage. On Jeju 7, you have pushed the human marines back, but they are still fighting after losing 90% of their force. These are temporary setbacks. No, War Commander. These are the true nature of this species revealing itself. Let me show you what I have learned about humans in my studies. Zephanos created new images, scenes from Earth's ancient history, humans struggling against ice ages, fighting massive animals with simple tools, surviving diseases that killed most of their population. Their homeworld tried to kill them for millions of years, the elder explained. Ice covered their planet for thousands of years at a time. Volcanoes destroyed their civilizations. Earthquakes leveled their cities. Diseases swept across their continents and killed half their population. Many species face natural disasters. Yes, but most species adapt by avoiding danger. Humans adapted by fighting danger. When the ice came, they learned to make fire. When predators hunted them, they learned to make better weapons. When diseases struck, they learned to make medicine. Every catastrophe made them stronger, not weaker. Hyunwoo listened with fascination. He had never heard a non-human perspective on his species' history. Show him the wars, Zephanos continued. The display changed to show human conflicts throughout history. They fought each other for territory, for resources, for ideas. Wars that lasted decades. Wars that killed millions. And through all of it, they learned one lesson above all others. Which is? Thexval asked reluctantly. Never give up. No matter how bad things become, no matter how many die, no matter how hopeless the situation appears, keep fighting. Because the alternative is extinction. Zephanos turned to address both Thexval and Hyunwoo directly. War Commander, you made a fundamental error. You thought humans were weak because they seemed to avoid conflict. You thought they would surrender easily because they appeared to value individual lives. Our intelligence reports? Your intelligence reports were correct about human preferences, Zephanos interrupted. Humans do prefer peace to war. They do value individual lives highly, but your reports miss the most important fact about this species, which is, when humans fight, they are not fighting for territory or resources or political control. They are fighting for survival. And when any species fights for survival, they become capable of things that seem impossible. The Elder created one final display, showing current battle reports from across human space. Look at what your forces are reporting. Wounded humans who continue fighting, civilians who take up arms, children who serve as messengers and saboteurs, medical personnel who treat patients under fire and then return them to combat. Hyunwoo read the reports with a mixture of pride and sadness. His people were indeed bleeding, but they were not breaking. This is why I warned you not to attack them, Zephanos continued. Not because humans are militarily superior, they are not. Not because they have better technology. They do not. I warned you because humans are already broken, and that makes them unbreakable. I don't understand, Thexval admitted. Every other species in the galaxy has something they cannot lose. Honor, territory, population, culture. When that thing is threatened with destruction, they surrender to preserve it. But humans have already lost everything many times. Their civilizations have fallen. Their populations have been decimated. Their cultures have been destroyed and rebuilt. Zephanos moved closer to the Veltar commander. They know that they can lose everything and still survive. They know that defeat is not death. They know that as long as some of them remain alive, they can rebuild. That knowledge makes them fearless in a way that no other species can match. So what are you suggesting? Thexval asked. End this war. Withdraw your forces. Return their territories. Because the alternative is not victory, it is mutual destruction. The Veltar Empire does not retreat. Then the Veltar Empire will learn what it means to fight an enemy that cannot be defeated. Yunwu said quietly. We will bleed. We will die. We will lose battles and worlds and fleets, but we will never surrender. And eventually you will run out of soldiers before we run out of people willing to fight. Thexval studied the tactical displays again. His forces held most of human space, but the cost had been enormous. And the resistance was not weakening. If anything, it was growing stronger as more civilians took up arms. If I withdraw, he asked slowly, will the humans seek revenge? Will they attack Veltar territory? No, Hyunwoo replied. We will rebuild our worlds and return to our lives. We never wanted this war. And if we attack again in the future, Hyunwoo looked directly into the alien commander's eyes. Then we will fight again. And the result will be the same. Elder Zephanos spoke one final time. War Commander, you have learned something that no Veltar leader,